Hey, welcome back to Monday All Weekend. I'm Wyatt. Along with me is Joe and Joshua. We are
Joshua.
here. We're gonna be looking at some Acolyte news on this
Yeah.
this Monday, and
Mm.
also Francis Ford Coppola's new film, and
Mr. Coppola.
a little bit of news and drama revolving around that. And then we're gonna hit up what Apple is doing with their theatrical releases.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
it's just a little sneak peek for what this episode has in store.
I really quickly, I didn't mention this before we went live. If I start cutting in and out at all, I'm testing out this new Wi-Fi, so I don't know how
Ah,
good of quality it is being live.
It's been
Um,
good so far. It's been
yeah,
good so
it,
far.
it
it hasn't
should
been too
be
bad.
good, but this is the first time I'm going live with it or even recording
Mm,
anything with it. So we'll see.
Right, right. So if you're here live, interact with us in the chat. We'd love to get your thoughts on all these topics as we go through them. Ask us questions. We'll talk to you there. Really appreciate you guys hanging out with us. So let's go ahead and jump right into the first bit of drama. The Acolyte post cancellation is honestly getting more and more crazy, in my opinion. It seems like everyone is paying attention to the show after it gets canceled. And
yeah,
I know everyone was paying attention to it while it was rolling out because of the quality of the show. It was sucky.
mhm,
But it seems like everyone's just more and more crap's coming out about it essentially, right? And I think it's just so what's the word for triggering? I don't know. It just pulls out everyone's interest. Everyone's still watching content about the Acolyte online. Everybody's still engaged, even though the show's been over and the show's been canceled, right?
Well, I think what's happening is, um, if what had happened with this was similar with what had happened with previous Lucasfilm or Disney, um, movies or TV shows where they just sort of didn't say anything about it. They didn't
Mhm.
say it was canceled. They just didn't plan on renewing it and didn't mention it again, right? I don't think there would have been as much backlash from internet people talking about it. There would have just continued to be fan theories and stuff and waiting to see if there would be a new season. But because this was openly canceled, now you've got everybody coming out of the woodworks and talking about it, and it's a mess, man.
I
Yeah.
and I also think that there's it's kind of, although Disney has been making bad stuff for quite a while now, and people know that, it's kind of in the forefront of everybody's thinking, oh, this is not good anymore. And so
Yeah.
it's kind of become a thing to hate on Disney and on Lucas or Star Wars, basically,
Right.
for Disney.
So getting into some of the news, all right. Apparently, it's now been released in like literally the past 24 hours or leaked, I guess, that Keanu Reeves was initially going to play Master Soul, which is kind of a wild thing that they would try to get
Hmm.
Keanu Reeves to play a role like this. Thank goodness he looked at the script, or at least whatever they offered him, and said, "No, I don't want to be a part of this."
I think the official story is that there was scheduling issues
Mm,
when it
maybe
was his agent being like,
Nah.
they're just trying to
I-
be nice.
they were like, his agent probably looked at that and was like, you're kind of on a high right now. Um, John Wick still kills it at the box office.
Right.
People are still going to see that. Public opinion on Keanu is at an all-time high.
Hmm.
Being in this Star Wars project, with this director and these creators and writers and everything is probably not a good look.
Yeah. So there's also this article from Forbes, right? There's a lot of speculation going on right now
Mhm,
around this story, primarily because of the buzz that's happening.
mhm.
It's just so weird. It's so strange to see a show after it's done and after it's canceled to have this much attention. Everyone like a week ago was like, "Do your victory lap, internet,"
Mhm.
because it got canceled. They heard our voices on some level. They heard us, right?
Yeah.
and yet it's just still rolling out. So apparently, Leslie Headland has claimed before the show or whatever that Lee Junji
Jay or Jai. I don't
Jujai,
know exactly how it's
the
pronounced.
guy from Squid Games who played Master Soul, casting where she could not be more clear that she wanted him for the part from moment one, basically. And here's another article that kind of goes into what she actually said.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I'm not that great of a reader, and she kind of rambles a lot. But she basically was saying that they had no plans for this role. She had nobody in her mind, but she had just watched Squid Games and she had written this character. She's like, oh, I should get this guy. I want this guy. I don't know if we can get him, but this is the guy I want, right? And
Mm-hmm.
now it's been leaked that Keanu Reeves was actually slated number one
Yeah.
to be
So
Master Soul.
what my guess here is that they tried to get Keanu. They got Trinity. They got what's her face,
Carrie-Anne Moss.
Carrie-Anne Moss. So they wanted Keanu to kind of round out their Matrix looking thing, and then he was like, "Nah, I got other stuff, scheduling issues. I can't be a part of this." And so she was probably looking around, being like, "All right, well, who else? Who else could I get?"
Right.
And I mean, I'm not gonna say that her statement is entirely untrue, with the exception of from the very beginning. I think that part's untrue. But I do think she probably looked at how popular Squid Game was and been like, yeah, this guy, let's get him. He's a good actor. Although
Right.
all of that could be fabricated too. I was just trying to give her the benefit of the doubt.
It is kind of interesting, and I hate that I am bringing this up, but I'm gonna bring it up. As much as we love Keanu Reeves, and he is very popular. He's a popular actor. Everybody loves his movies. He is a white guy, and they swapped him out for
Sort of.
an Asian guy, and I don't know if that has
He's half
anything to do with
Asian.
it.
Right.
Wait, okay,
He's half Asian.
sure, but you know what I'm going.
Yeah, I
for.
know what you mean.
They probably, there could have been some people up in like behind the scenes being like, we need more diversity. We need a chance at, I don't know, whatever.
I don't think so. They got the Asian guy with what's his face, who plays Chimere, and I think
Manny
that's
something. Manny, I believe.
Manny Jacinto.
Yeah.
They got him. I think they would have been fine with Keanu. I think they having that big name, it doesn't matter like his ethnicity. Getting that big name would have been a win for them, and a loss for Keanu Reeves.
Right. Have you guys seen any of Star Wars Theory's videos as of late? He seems to really be doing his best to set the record straight, speaking on behalf of the fans with this show, because obviously with the cancellation, ever since the cancellation, we've just had an onslaught of name calling to the people who negatively reviewed this show, which is crazy to me.
Well, the
that
narrative is that the show was canceled because of the internet reviews and the fans, very speaking up about it, very openly saying that they disliked it and hated it in online discourse and whatnot. But honestly, it was canceled because nobody watched it. It was
That's why it was
canceled
canceled.
because maybe a couple thousand people watched it. I don't think it got into the hundreds of thousands.
Right.
Yeah. That's why it was canceled, because it wasn't popular.
Well, I mean, when I watch Star Wars, I want my droids to be straight. I don't want them to have a they/them personality.
I want my droids to be droids.
Yeah.
Androgynous.
So, do you guys want to hear some of these thoughts from Star Wars Theory? Because I feel like he's been repeating himself, but he's been making pretty good points.
Yeah.
I just thought we could play a second of this
story. How Seth MacFarlane missed his plane, which would that miraculous things. That's thus said. The guy learned English for this role. he obviously was passionate about it to do his best and to give it his all as an actor. But at the end of the day, it just wasn't enough for the show to get a second season. And that has nothing to do as a reflection of the acting. It has a reflection of Amanda Stenberg making that diss track and then the show also just being absolute garbage. And
Right. We seem to
Yeah.
forget about that. The diss track. Also, he was making the point of saying like, well, he did his best. Do you guys think that I don't think that Soul's performance in any way was an indicator of the show being bad or good. Do you
No,
think it was?
no. I
No,
mean,
I would agree with that.
it would again come down to like any sort of bad acting moments on his part would be due to the writing, because I know he's a good actor. In Squid Game, he's an incredible actor.
Mm,
He did have to learn English for this part, so no, I don't think it's it's due to him at all.
gotcha.
Serious about the diss track thing. That was actually reported that it really did damage a part of the fandom and the overall image of the show in general. When that diss track was thrown at so many fans who didn't like the show, basically calling them out as racists. I mean, that's just so abhorrent and ridiculous. And imagine not having any sense of understanding that maybe a group of people, can just not like something because it's bad. But I guess you have to be so goddamn egotistical to think that they don't like it because it's about the color of your skin, which, don't get me wrong, yeah, there are racists, but those are not the majority of people, and those are not all people out there.
Mm.
That's being, I don't know, I think that's just like a major flaw in an argument to
Mhm.
just,
Well,
That's a really good point.
what she did was she took the show, which people don't like, and for a multitude of reasons, um, and turned that ire on. Well, now you don't like the show because you don't like me, the person,
Yeah.
Amanda
Right.
Stenberg, the person.
Right.
That is not what you want to do as an actor. You kind of want to just be like, yeah, we're a part of this thing. It's really fun. We're having a good time. We hope you, the fans, enjoy it. And
Yeah.
then maybe later down the road, maybe you talk about this project. But anytime an actor has, like, before the movie come out or anything, made a fool of themselves or been insulting or annoying, or just terrible, like a terrible human being, people stop looking at the movie as, I may not like this movie, and start going, I don't like this person,
Mm.
so I'm not gonna watch this
Right.
property.
Right. And what was interesting is actually like the the writing was absolutely horrible. We were pointing that out from episode 1, right? The dialogue and everything. And we were saying that yeah, Amanda Stenberg's not a good actor. Like that was what the internet was saying. It was when she made the diss track is when we just started really dogging on her
Mhm.
and just laying into her as a person
Yeah, be like,
partly.
now she's not a good person. I don't know if she's a
Right.
bad actor, but she's kind of a bad person.
She put herself in the crosshairs of the internet that was
Mhm.
already kind of giving her a little bit of a softball pass on her acting and the show as a whole. And then she became the one of the faces of how horrible this show ended up being, right?
Yep.
Why is this a trend with Hollywood these days we're hearing way more and more of these big name actors having the I don't know what the right word is, the gumption to come before
Gumption.
interviews and act like they're high and mighty
Why
of
they're bold, I guess.
yeah, gloat. I mean, we've seen it with Rachel Zegler, we've seen it with her, we're constantly seeing it now when
Yeah.
10 years ago, you didn't see Johnny Depp or, people going in front of the screen. Maybe in person, they would be like, well, I'm a little better than you because I'm an actor. I make millions of dollars. But they weren't going in front of the internet and saying this.
Yeah, not when they're, trying to promote something or when their show is currently airing. And, yeah, obviously, like Josh said, there's plenty of exceptions to that. But it's now right now, for some reason, we see it over and over and over.
Yeah.
These actors just going and making a fool of themselves.
Well,
Uh,
Joshua makes a good point. I think it's ultimately, if you look at who's doing it, it's
mhm.
usually the women of color, or we could call them Karens of color in some
Mm.
capacity, because they're self-important. They're and
BIPOC with a K.
they've been told that because you are a woman of color, you're really important and
Mhm.
no one should ever censor your voice. What they didn't know that meant when they were telling these women that was that you can go on the internet and say whatever the crap you want and bring bad press to the show that they've invested their money in, and they paid a lot of money to these actors to be in, but ultimately the actors think that they're doing the righteous work by, I don't
Mhm.
know, dunking on the fans.
Dunking on
Feel
the
like
chuds,
when
dude.
it comes to
It's
dunking on the fans, it should be left up to the corporate strategy of Disney, not the
Mhm.
individual actors, because the individual actors aren't the ones that have money tied up in these projects.
Yeah, and it's not huge name people either. Like I feel like it's people that have like 1 or 2 acting credits under their belt, and
Right.
then they're acting like they're so high and mighty. I mean, if Keanu came out and said, "You guys should watch this. It's good," then because Keanu has been in The Matrix and he's been in all these movies, John Wick, that are good movies, I would be like, okay, let me think about this.
Mhm.
No, it's bad, but at least I would take a second to be like,
Yeah, well,
he got
absolutely
stuff.
he did it happened with, Cyberpunk 2077. He came out on a stage at, I wanna say it was like a Summerfest or something, to announce Cyberpunk 2077, and he was charismatic, and he was, adorable, everybody loved him. You know, you got that incredible meme where he's like, you know, "You're breathtaking," right? And everybody loved him, and he was promoting the game, and then the game came out, and it was trash.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard it's a lot better now, but it was trash when it came out. Everybody had so many bugs.
Mm.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
It should have destroyed CD Project Red, but it wasn't, you know, he didn't come out and start saying like, "Oh, well, clearly nobody likes this game because they're all racists. They're all bigots. They can't stand that me, Keanu Reeves, a person, you know, of Asian descent, is in this movie or in this video game." If he had, it probably would have been much worse.
Right.
But he didn't. But for some reason, that's what's happening now with these kinds of TV shows.
Yeah, and Josh was right. It is people that are brand new on the scene. Amanda Stenberg, what did she do before this? Hunger Games.
Hmm. I mean,
Was
there's
she?
some.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she
she
played
played
the little
Rue.
girl, Rue, who
Yeah,
gets killed
Did.
in
yeah.
the first movie.
There's
I'm just putting this in together now.
he's finally getting it. There's some old, you know, older names in Hollywood that do the same thing, obviously, like, Mark Hamill and, um, the other Mark, what's
Yeah,
his face,
but
who plays
Zuckerberg.
the
Mark
Hulk.
Oh,
Mark Hamill is a one-hit wonder.
Yeah, but, I'm referring to people more like, Ruffalo, Mark Ruffalo.
yeah,
There's people like that
Ruffalo?
who have been in tons of stuff, and they're just they all the time are talking about
yeah,
this stuff.
and
But
it's just emboldened. But
yeah,
at the same time, uh, Mark Hamill is alienating the fans. I kind of covered that last week. Mark Ruffalo, I don't think has ever alienated the Avengers fans. You know what I mean?
go
I'd
look
never
at
heard
his
him say it.
tweets, dude.
Should I?
Go look at his tweets.
All right. I might not. I'll just get enraged.
Look at his, yeah.
Very
Yeah,
enraged.
it'll make you mad. He's a Hollywood, you know, sympathizer,
Mm.
baby boy.
Baby boy.
All right. Yeah, I think I don't know how long this Acolyte is going to continue to be buzzing. I'm kind of hoping, honestly, that it's just a fart in the wind, that it's just gonna sizzle out by the end of
It's been
next
a
weekend.
nice big one.
It's been a real big one.
Yeah.
But
It'll linger
it.
for a minute, but
it'll linger. I
be
think
gone.
I'm thinking that with all the internet buzz around the Rings of Power starting this week,
Mhm.
it's going to fizzle out. That's what I'm hoping. Because the fans that I wouldn't say all of them, but what I'm noticing on the internet is people that most people didn't like the Acolyte. but there's also a ton of people that don't like Rings of Power as well. So I'm kind of thinking there's going to be plenty to talk about with this new show from Amazon Prime. So we will be talking about that a lot. So make sure you stay tuned this week and weeks to follow for Rings of Power content, season 2. But let's go ahead and jump into this. So Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis. You guys haven't really seen much about this. We haven't done a lot of talk about this on the channel at all.
No, but what we watched not long ago was
The trailer?
interesting. Looking at the trailer, what a wild ride.
It is seems to be like a very wild ride, and who really knows what it's going to be about based on that trailer alone, right?
Yeah, it almost feels Tenet / In Time. Am I thinking of the right movie?
In Time. I don't know
In
if I've
Time
seen In Time.
Is that the one with Justin Timberlake?
Yeah, it seems nothing like In Time.
Oh, okay.
And I'm gonna say this as well, nothing like Tenet.
Well, there was some reversing, right?
There was a little bit of reversing. I'll give you that. So it's also like Doctor Strange.
Right. So I want to hit this first because this has been news. But before we get to the kind of crazy situation that's happened this past week, I want to point out the fact that there's not a major studio behind Coppola in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
He is fronting the $120 million film that's starring Adam Driver. It's got Aubrey Plaza. It's got a whole bunch of people in this. It's got your favorite actor, Joshua, or one of your favorites.
Miles Teller.
No.
The
dude from Peanut Butter Falcon.
The
Shia
guy
LaBeouf.
with Down syndrome?
Shia LaBeouf. I wouldn't say he's my favorite actor. No,
Well,
no.
it's a pretty high slated group of stars, right?
Yeah.
But he is funding this movie himself, which is kind of crazy that he is funding a $120 million film with his own money. So he was asked not too long ago about how does he feel about spending his fortune that he's worked hard to get on this one movie, right?
I think this question came up because his children, his offspring, his scrubbles have probably been vocal about how they're not in support of their father, just whiling away his fortune,
Right.
which, is potentially also their fortune.
Yeah.
on just whatever kind of passion project that he wants to do. And in the interview he talks about, it's like, well, I opened up this winery.
Hold on, I'm gonna play it.
Oh, you're gonna play it? Okay.
I'm gonna play it. Okay.
Excellent.
Now it's risking your own money on the film.
I don't care. I never cared about money. One of the reasons why I had the line of credit that I did to be able to do this is because in 2008, I borrowed in those days $20 million to take a winery and build a winery that children could do something when their parents were drinking the wine. Because I figured, well, if the kids could go, then the grandparents would go. And this absurd risk of $20 million created a place that now every winery tried to duplicate with. And so I just took the money from that I wouldn't have had had I not taken the risk, and I put the risk in the movie. So I have no problems with the financial. Also, another thing, my children, without exceptions, they have wonderful careers without a fortune. They don't need a fortune. So no matter what happens, we're fine. It doesn't matter. All of you, the money doesn't matter. What's important are friends, because a friend will never let you down. Money may evaporate.
Just that sympathy clap at the end there. It's like, okay.
Yeah, one guy.
There's so this guy's in his 80s, all right, and he's known for movies like The Godfather. I was just looking at this clip, and if I can find it, Adam Driver's just sitting there being like, man, this poor fellow. I guess I'm getting money.
He's getting paid.
But he's probably just like, I kind of feel bad.
I was the budget.
So if you guys hadn't seen the trailer, it's be kind of difficult to find the trailer the second half of this week. But the trailer kind of opens up with kind of taking a stab at critics from his past successful movies by saying, a sloppy, self-indulgent movie, right? It's a critic from The Voice about The Godfather, right? They also called it diminished by its artisanness. How do you say that word?
Artsiness.
Artsiness. Artsiness. Let's see. Doesn't know what it wants to be. These are all quotes from critics about The Godfather. And then they hit Apocalypse Now. And
Dracula,
then, Dracula. And what's kind of interesting about all these quotes is that they're fake.
Wait, they're not
I
real?
thought it was funny because we watched the trailer and I was like, "There's some interesting quotes." I was like, I remember these movies being like, people kind of liking them, being kind of critically acclaimed and stuff like that.
Wait, the quotes are fake? I thought they were real quotes, but they were slandering. So they
I
didn't
was
want 'em
thinking,
up.
I was like, oh, okay, so they dug up some quotes from somewhere, like one person said this thing, and then slapped it onto the trailer.
Yeah.
But it seems like they were more making it up.
Well, so I don't know if all of them were made up, but
not
it
making
just
it up, but
it just broke like yesterday that they had to pull this trailer. So it's been out for like a week and they had to pull the trailer off of YouTube so you can find it, but it's not in on the main outlets, I guess you might say, for this movie.
You
And
had to Reddit to watch it.
they had to apologize because they opened the trailer by making it seem like he's never been believed, but he always comes out with masterpieces, right? Getting people to want to watch Megalopolis, his new self-funded epic, right? Starring Adam Driver. And they just had to redact the trailer and send out an apology. So the trailer for Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis has been withdrawn by Lionsgate because the clip included fabricated quotes
That's crazy.
from real film critics about the filmmaker's previous work. The studio responsible for the distribution of the film in the US apologizes to the critics and to Mr. Coppola for the inexcusable error in our vetting process. We screwed up, Lionsgate said in a
good.
Wednesday.
Good. Yeah, that's the statement that these studios should be putting out is we messed up, we screwed up. This is our fault. We're taking responsibility. That's a really great way to do it.
What would be their motive for putting fake things up though?
I'll tell you what I think happened, and this is just a personal theory.
Mhm.
Okay.
They hired a person or a team or a crew, and Coppola said, "This is kind of what I'm going for with the attitude of the movie or whatever." Maybe he had some notes that, and the studio was like, "Okay, use this, follow these sort of notes, and come up with something intriguing, right?" And so they were like, "Okay, well, we put together these reviews about his past movies and you know to kind of bring up the new one, right?
Right.
These classic Coppola movies, these critically acclaimed Coppola movies,
Yeah.
put kind of a negative spin on it and make people go, "Wait, what?
Right.
People thought these were bad?" I always thought these
Right.
were good. And then, the new one comes on and you watch it and you have that thought in the back of your mind, even though you're confused the entire way through. And
Yeah.
you're like, okay, so the critics said that The Godfather was kind of like a sloppy mess. This looks like a sloppy mess,
Right.
but it is Coppola, and I know that The Godfather is not a sloppy mess. So it's almost
Yeah.
weirdly like relying on people's movie literacy and knowing
Right.
that The Godfather is a good movie to kind of, I don't know, a little bit of reverse psychology to make them be like, okay, this might be just like a really great movie, even though it looks like a sloppy
Yeah,
movie.
yeah, it was definitely a choice. But check this out. So this article breaks down a couple of the ones that were faked. The spot included a quote from critic Pauline Kael, as writer, The Godfather was diminished by its artsiness. Okay. When her actual review was decidedly positive.
Yeah,
Decadently positive. Whatever that word
decidedly.
is.
Yeah,
Decidedly
decidedly.
positive.
Decidedly. You got
All
it.
right.
Good job.
Similarly, critics Rex Reed, apparent dig at Apocalypse Now, an epic piece of trash, was made up
Just
completely.
fabricated, completely fake.
All right. And the late critic Roger
Ebert.
alleged insult of the film Bram Stoker's Dracula, a triumphant of style over substance, appears to be taken from his review of a different film by a different director, Tim Burton's Batman. So it wasn't even for Dracula at all, right?
And you know what? Let's be honest. That Tim Burton's Batman is a triumph of style over substance.
And it says,
absolutely is.
this article says it's unclear how the quotes were created, right? So I
Yeah,
think
this is definitely confusing on like what's the purpose of making fake quotes and why, like why?
It's to lift up this movie.
this is
Sure,
I
but
have a
they
Lift
theory.
up the movie.
I have a theory. No, there was the purpose of saying, let's get negative reviews of Coppola in the past. It's going to build the reputation for it doesn't matter
Yeah.
what the critics say, it's always going to be good. But this is how it happened. Somebody like me, man. So
Mhm.
this thing doesn't have a lot of checks and balances, okay?
A white man?
Somebody was putting this trailer together, probably alone in their basement, right? On a
Mhm.
contract job. And they said, we're going to do like this general idea, put something together. Let's go ahead and see like what you come up with. Right. And probably one or two dudes like me put this trailer together. They were really proud of it. But when they went for the beginning, they probably Googled or asked AI, give us negative quotes of The Godfather. And either Google or AI was wrong, as they often are. And when they presented the first draft, they said, these are really good quotes. Did you do background on this? They're like, yeah, we looked it up on the internet. You know what I mean?
Okay, I'll tell you
I
what.
think
That's what I
They
think
went
happened.
looking for the negative reviews of those films. They absolutely did, and then they couldn't find them. I'm telling you, it was a studio note that said, you know, we need
Find
to make
negative quotes.
negative quotes from his previous movies, which everybody knows are brilliant classics, right?
Mhm.
They went looking for those reviews, and they couldn't find any of actual substance, so they made them up or pulled them from something else.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think you're a little bit wrong, Joseph, with your statement where you're saying that they were looking at it and they're like, these are really good quotes. I think that was part of it, is nobody checked behind whoever made these quotes or like made them up. They
Right.
were just like, oh, let me make them up. And then there was nobody saying, are these actually real? Are these real quotes?
It
Yeah.
almost sounds like a game that we would have on the podcast. Is this a real quote? Is it a quote from something else, or is it a twisted quote from something that was actually positive?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Gosh, that's so weird that
It
they would.
is.
But
It
I'm
is
telling you,
very
I
weird.
know exactly. It's. I'm not saying it's that exact thing, but something like that happened. They got a studio note. They went searching. They had to make this up on the fly, and they produced something.
It was out. Look, it was out for like a week and it got 1.3 million. Let's see. The trailer was viewed more than 1.3 million times the day it was posted online,
Mm.
right? So it's got, I'm pretty sure by the time they pulled it, I think they pulled it yesterday
Mhm.
morning, or maybe Saturday night, but it got a lot of views.
I'll be honest, I think that the direction for what the trailer is supposed to be probably came from Coppola, because it says that they released the film at the Cannes Festival, right?
Yeah.
And it didn't get like great reviews.
Had mixed reviews is what it
Had
says.
mixed reviews, and I'm sure people were being like, it seems like kind of a mess. It seems
Well,
like a little bit of a long protracted kind of film. It seems like, and so I wouldn't be surprised if either him or his team was like, when we come up with this trailer, we need to make sure that people are kind of aware of that style of movie
not
making has
trusting,
always been
right?
that
Yeah.
you've always been kind of doing this thing, and you've always made bangers. You've always made classics.
That could
Right.
be.
Right. Well, I mean, take a look real quick at the opening trailer. Like, just listen to this for a second, okay? Listen to how it opens.
True genius is often misunderstood.
Yeah, true genius is often misunderstood.
Thanks, Morpheus.
That's exactly it. And so, yeah, it's just basically like Coppola is a true genius, right?
Mm.
And people don't understand. A lot of people don't understand when he's putting his stuff out, but it will become legend. Now, I will say at the showing at the festival, it does say that it was after the film it received a standing ovation, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there were also at the end afterward, the written reviews were mixed. So we'll see how this is. I mean, I know they're not wrong necessarily because all of his films, including Godfather, did have a lot of mixed reviews. It wasn't just perfectly accepted across the board.
I saw the second Twilight movie in theaters. It also got a standing ovation.
Did it really?
I mean,
Yeah.
I was part of that when Jacob took his shirt off and
Everybody
the long
was
hair. And
we all saw it.
Why on earth were you at the theater for the second Twilight movie after the first one?
It doesn't
We don't
matter.
need to get into that.
Moving on. Moving on.
Why were you in the trailer?
Moving
the
on. Moving
theater
on.
for New Moon?
Well, it said
Was that-
moving on.
were you in middle school then?
Can we just get to the next thing?
After seeing the first movie, he's like, I need more. I'm going to the theater to watch this.
Round 2, baby. I was like, oh man, that third movie's gonna hit.
You're
hard.
probably watching it for the memes, honestly.
Probably not back then. I actually, when the first movie came out, I enjoyed it. I thought it was an interesting kind of take on a love story and vampires. And
It
then
was back when you were trying to be artsy and interesting.
it got weird.
Yeah, you were
Back when I
listening to
was wearing a
Owl City
fedora.
while watching.
You were in a what?
Back when I was wearing a fedora.
Hey, don't knock on that fedora, man. That became different.
Fedora, all right, and that was before incels.
All 40-year-old single men love their fedoras.
I was 14, so
Well, you were just
All
a
right.
little early.
Allow me to shift gears, fellas, if you don't mind.
Okay.
So after a few big, medium failures, I guess, for Apple TV Plus in theaters, their new film, Wolf, was initially just pulled back from a wide theatrical release to something that is, a lot less interesting. So basically, they pulled it from a wide, long theatrical release to 1 week in select theaters and then go straight to streaming. Now, if you don't know about Wolf, Wolf is going to be the spinoff of Ocean's 11, starring Brad Pitt and George Clooney. This is going to be a relatively this is like a noteworthy film, right?
yeah.
So they've recently clarified as to why they made this decision, and it's not just with this movie, all right? It's actually a shift in how they do business across the board, somewhat, right? So we've heard Netflix months ago did their Netflix films division into like 4 or 5 separate genre categories. They lowered the budget of their films and they're doing more content for less money to hit a larger variety of genres. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read through some of this to give a clarity as to why Apple is pulling back and also to understand a little bit of their business practices. And then we can discuss from there. This is some of what we've already predicted, but let's go ahead and go through this. Apple is clarifying its broader film strategy moving forward. Remember when the tech giant pulled a switcheroo on Wolf? Yeah, just like a month ago, yanking it from wide releases to 1 week theatrical run before hitting streaming. Turns out that wasn't just a one-off. After a string of expensive films like Napoleon and Killers of the Flower Moon underperformed at the box office, the tech giant is changing course. The new plan: they produce just 1 or 2 big budget event films a year for theaters, while most projects will be capped at $80 million and head straight to Apple TV Plus. This move comes after noticing that streaming only releases like The Instagrator are actually driving more subscriber growth. So, and then with Hollywood facing a tough year, box office is down 13.8%. So we've kind of covered this in the past where we've predicted that the old model of theater, box office, Hollywood, in the world of streaming, with those two mix, something's going to give and fall. And it seems as though we've had this constant back and forth where Disney can't seem to make their streaming work, right? And then you got Apple TV Plus, arguably can't make their streaming work, but their real problem, they're saying, is the theatrical issue, you know? And then you got Amazon Prime, which probably is way stronger with streaming, but they're trying to make these big theatrical things, or at least they plan to, as we just touched on like a week or two ago.
I'll tell you what, from my perspective, it's a good move. Pull back on your budget, make something that's a little bit, more, I don't know, if you're going to make a movie that's less accessible to broader audiences and you are only going to have it, on your streaming platform, it should be a lower budget. It also gives directors and creatives kind of the ability to see what they can do with less money. I mean, we saw what can be done with $15 million with Godzilla Minus One. And we've also seen what can be done with, 180 for the Acolyte. So I think 80 million is a pretty good number. The other issue I'm seeing is Apple hasn't been producing stuff that's broad appeal for the movies, right? Napoleon and Killers of the Flower Moon are not broad appeal movies. You need broad appeal movies in order to make money. You can release the artsy stuff and you're going to get whatever you get from that. But in order to support those projects and in order to support the directors and actors who are going to be in those projects and are going to be demanding the higher sums of money, you need big, broad appeal, fun, blockbustery type movies, which we've sort of lost a lot of that in recent years. We haven't seen too many of those, and Apple's running into this problem where they don't have the money to support the more artful style films that they've been producing. I mean, if you go look on Apple TV Plus, look at the stuff that's on there. The TV shows are all pretty high concept or artful type stuff. You're not seeing any, I don't know, Family Guy or Rick and Morty or anything like that. You're seeing people who are putting passion and effort into stuff, and that seems to be what they want to produce. But they're just not making any. They don't have anything that's making money.
It is interesting that what do we want? What does the audience want? Do they want a big film, or do they want a show out of a spin-off show off these movie franchises? And also, it's interesting. I feel like more recently people are realizing, especially in like, I know this is off topic a tiny bit, of like people are realizing, like stand-up comedians, that they can, instead of going to Netflix, they can just put their stuff out on YouTube and they'll basically own it except for whatever YouTube takes. And they're doing huge things like this for Apple TV. What I guess I don't really have know what, but where do you want to put your content on Apple
Mhm.
TV, or do you want to try to go to like a Netflix?
I think there's when it comes to the streaming versus the theater issue, it's still in limbo, and it's going to be in limbo for probably a while, because ultimately they have to make money. And really the only one that seems to be pivoting early and figuring things out in the streaming world is Netflix, because they've been doing it the longest, and
Mhm.
their whole business model is built around streaming. And so when they pivot, it makes sense. Everything else, like Apple and Disney, they always are reactive to something that they jumped into quickly. Now, this what's interesting is just like 2 weeks ago, we were talking about how, which I don't know why it might have not been here, but me and Joshua talked about how Amazon Prime Video, their future goals are to release 17, I believe it's 17 films in movie theaters annually. Okay.
Ugh.
So basically, Amazon Prime Video wants to be the top dog in theaters, while everyone like Pixar, right? We're doing 3 movies every 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And Apple TV, we're doing 2 movies in theaters a year. And then everything else is going through streaming. They're trying to figure each one out, and in doing so, they're cutting back on their theater experience. Whereas Prime Video is upping the ante by saying, I don't know if it'll last. They might hemorrhage money, but they are basically saying we're trying to shoot for 17 films in theaters a year. So every month, and a bonus one each month for like holiday films and stuff,
It
probably.
might be pretty smart if other companies are sort of pulling away from theaters and your
Yeah.
movies are the ones that are in there. Like the majority of the movies that are in there, I mean, people
You
go
get
to
the
see.
views.
Yeah.
The people that still do go to the movie theaters for the experience will see it.
Well, then
I feel
the
like
other
we should
issue. Go
I
ahead.
feel like we should ask the kids, the next generation. We love the movie theater because we grew up going to the movie theater and having those big experiences. But
Mhm.
what do the kids want? What does the next generation want? Because this would be a great thing to just interview a bunch of kids and be like, what do you want? Do you go to the theater? Do you enjoy that? Because I know they're kids, and so their idea of things might change when they're in their 20s. But we were going to theaters at 10, 11-year-olds, 10, 11 year, I'm getting caught up on
Ages.
that,
Yeah.
Get through it.
ages, and we loved it. We loved
Oh,
it.
yeah. It was always fun. It was great. I actually, little anecdote. I drove by the $1. It was called the Dollar Theater. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
cheap, right? I drove by it the other day. It's like there's nothing there anymore, but it still has like the way the building was designed. It had the pillars in front, and then you walked into this sort of it was open ceiling after you walked through the pillars. And then there was, where you got your ticket and then went inside. But it was cool seeing it there. And then the pizza place that was right next door is still there. So it's pretty sick.
The Dollar Theater, that was a different business model, because it was like the movie's about to come out on DVD,
Yeah.
and it's already been out in theaters. But
Been out in theaters for a
there's this
minute.
purgatory section where
Yeah.
there's like a 2-week gap before and after both of those, where it can go to the Dollar Theater, right?
Yeah, it was like after the movie was out of main theaters,
Yeah.
it would go into the Dollar Theater. And it was weird. As a kid, you didn't realize it.
Mm.
As a kid, you had no idea. You had no idea that the movie that you were going to see had been out for months
Yeah.
or
You
weeks
were
or
just going
whatever.
to see it for the first
You were
time
like,
because it's
"Oh my
now
gosh,
affordable. Yeah.
going to see,
I
The Incredibles or whatever."
I got my lunch money. I saved it up.
I think the people like HBO Max are the Dollar Theater these days.
Yeah.
They'll get an exclusive movie saying it's on Max exclusively for this extended period of time,
Mhm.
and that's the Dollar Theater today.
Maybe. I mean, I think streaming services are just eating so much of the industry, where like Redbox is no longer a thing, Blockbusters,
Well,
any kind of
what you talking
movie
about?
rentals
There's
is not a
still
thing.
I still see a red box
I'm not saying
every
they
now
don't
and then. It's
exist.
still on the corner. Red box is out here.
There is a single Blockbuster
know.
that still exists. Doesn't mean that Blockbuster exists
Tricking.
anymore,
All
right?
right, out here on the corner of these gas stations.
Well, they don't have to pay anybody. It's just a freaking robot that sits there
Out here
and
with a
waits for
leg
people to
out.
use them. And as soon as that red box dies, the mechanics go bad on it. They're going to toss it because they don't want to spend the money to fix the mechanic for a dying industry. I'm just saying, red box is not a thing. Nobody goes to pick up their red box unless they don't have internet where they live, right?
Let's start our own thing, the blue box.
Oh my gosh. We have
maybe
our own
not.
thing. It's called the Boomy, and no one's allowed to take it. We have a
blue
verbal
box
patent.
is not a great name.
No.
Blue box. My
Not
goodness.
a great title. Anyways, I feel like that kind of wraps it up for this Monday's show.
Was that good? Was that stimulating news? For
I
the
felt like
Monday
I
episode?
kind of enjoyed it. I had a good time.
It's pretty crazy that Francis Ford Coppola is spending all that money of his own
All
on his
his
own
kids'
dime.
money, all of
maybe
his, all of
maybe
their
he's mad
Right
at his
before he
kids.
dies.
I
He's
love
like-
that he said, he's like, the money doesn't matter to them. They all got great jobs.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I get it. It's like if your kids are successful, why are they whining about your money?
Right. They're not entitled to it. Kids get an inheritance based on what the parent wants to give them.
Exactly.
And if the parent doesn't want to give away his $120 million, he wants to make his last film before he dies.
Yeah.
That he has the right to
There you
use
go.
that money,
It's his
even
money.
if the kids don't want him to.
They've
right?
got good jobs. They don't. It's not about the money. It's about friends.
Imagine what if like one of his kids and their spouse has racked up secret serious gambling debt.
Oh,
Because they've been eyeballing that 120 million and being like, it's all right. My dad's in his
Coming.
80s.
It's
I'm gonna be
coming.
able to get this out of my head. And then he freaking spends it all on a movie.
Yeah, I'd be pretty upset too.
Then he's like, I'm gonna get killed.
And he
think we
says
should-
it's all about friendship.
It's all about friendship.
I want to bring it back
What
to
about your child, Dad? What about your child's safety? I'm in great gambling debt.
Yep. Hey, like this video. Leave a comment down below what your thoughts are. Subscribe to the channel. We'll see you guys in the next video or live or next Monday. Take it easy.